on, I've got a YouTube video to make. Today, I want to talk about short-haul travel, and I know it's not the most exciting topic, but hear me out. When travelling short-haul on British Airways, the pricing sometimes blurs between economy and business, and I wanted to see if short-haul business was really worth the difference. Well, if the pricing is the same or cheaper, then it's pretty much a no-brainer. But what happens if the price is just slightly more? Is it worth paying the extra capital? So, the best way to tackle the topic is to explain what the difference between European business and economy is. Knowing this can avoid a lot of disappointment, as some YouTubers have found out.
This is just a super short and unplanned review of the British Airways business class offering from London to Naples on an Airbus A320. Booked business class so we could have a nice big seat and relax on the 2.5 hour flight into Europe. Ended up getting this.
And why is it different? Well, in short, European business is a product arising out of two factors. Firstly, it's very hard to continuously fill a regional business class seat when the market is conditioned to cheap flights. And on the other hand, as a result of stiff competition, airlines need to be continuously flexible. So what do airlines do? Well, they simply move a dividing curtain. An empty seat does not generate any profit, so when there are business seats that can't be filled, the dividing curtain moves forward, so economy prices can be reduced across the board to compete with low-cost carriers. Conversely, if business is filling up faster than expected, the airline can convert a row of standard economy seats to high-yielding business class seats by simply moving the curtain back. This dynamic and flexible approach is why the two cabins ultimately share the same seat. So without further delay, today's journey starts in two places. On one end, I kick off from Hammersmith, where I'm taking the London Underground to get to Heathrow. As a note to self, people who say that getting to Heathrow is quick and convenient are clearly lying to themselves and have never taken the Heathrow Express before. Overall, it took 40 minutes to reach Terminal 5 and another 20 minutes to get up the elevator to departures and walk to the business end of the airport. And just like that, about an hour after setting off, I got my boarding pass ready to go through security. From the other end of the UK, I start from central Edinburgh. Getting to the airport, you have a choice of either bus or tram, both of which depart from the city centre. I elected to get the tram as a safer bet to avoid traffic, and like the London Underground, convenient it may be, quick it definitely is not. 40 minutes later, I arrive at the boundaries of Edinburgh Airport. The journey isn't over just yet, it takes about 15 minutes from when you arrive to make your way into the terminal and check in. And just like London, about an hour from setting off, I got my boarding pass ready to go through security. By this point, if you had priority check-in and luggage, then you'd begin to see the difference. But priority check-in is only useful if it saved you time, and it doesn't really save you time if there's no one here at the airport. With all things done and dusted, it was time to go through security. If you hold a business class ticket, then you'll be granted access to go through the fast track lane. However, there's no such luck for economy passengers unless you have mid-tier elite status with British Airways. However, again, this is a hard perk to test while the airport is so empty, as it literally saved me no time at all. At Heathrow, if you're doing this trip in economy and want to enter a lounge, you have two options, the Aspire or Plaza Premium Lounge, both of which accept Priority Pass and Dragon Pass respectively. In Edinburgh, it's the same story, but the Aspire Lounge, of which there are two of, would be your only option, and one of them is right by the BA Lounge by Gate 5. Ooh, maybe another time. If you have a business class ticket, then unsurprisingly you have business lounge access, which as you've guessed is another benefit of flight business. In keeping the elite secluded away from the commoners, at Heathrow take a few steps back from the Aspire Lounge and you'll find the escalator that ascends to the BA Southern Lounges. This one escalator will take you up to 3 of the 6 BA lounges here at Heathrow. In comparing the two, Heathrow and Edinburgh both operate galleries lounges, which means that you can expect similar levels of service between the two of them. Just Heathrow's lounge is about 6 times the size of Edinburgh's. That being said, the Edinburgh lounge is actually a pretty good representation of what BA lounges are like outside of Heathrow. In the lounge, there's an area with armchairs and sofas, complete with plug sockets, an office workspace area, a dining area, and a self-service food and bar counter, which wasn't self-service due to a small thing called a pandemic. For a quick bite, I elected for a chicken tikka and Pullman sandwich, a scone for dessert, and a Bloody Mary to wash it all down. Now, I don't think anyone has actually gone to a European business lounge for the quality of food an airport can provide. Lounges are usually synonymous with free food and drink, and if you're trying to justify if business class is worth it, you can always make your money back at the bar. Now Heathrow is a little bit different on this occasion. Due to COVID, the business lounge was closed and I therefore had the misfortune of having to endure the first class lounge. The thing about these lounges are the fact that they are decently furnished. They're not flashy in any way. BA has opted to rely on its pedigree more than anything else. If you're observant and have time to kill, the airline does have an impressive art collection filled with Damien Hirst, Peter Doig and Bridget Riley. Although I'm not sure if it has or had now, because at one point BA did sell some of their pieces to help them get through COVID. With that said, there are gems everywhere, like as you go up the escalator, in the entrance hall, and even as majestically in the bathroom. And while this is a first class lounge, this really isn't the first class lounge experience that you would expect, as the airline had to merge the business and first class lounges together. With that said, just like the Edinburgh Galleries lounge, similar lounge seating is available and enough bottled water is provided to give doomsdayers a run for their money. Additionally, there's a very well stocked and manned bar, and like other COVID combi lounges, the terrace was roped off for actual first class travellers. Quite fortuitously though, being here meant that I was able to try the new 40 Wings experience. I would have preferred a massage, but sleeping pods it is. If you never sat in one of these, they're as comfortable as they look. They say that 20 minutes is the recommended rest period and that's all you really need. To be honest, I did the time and I did not relax for one moment. I was actually counting the seconds as I was way too scared of passing out and missing my flight. Moving on, showers were available, but only if you were travelling long haul, so the only thing left to experience was the food. At the lounge, the menu wasn't too extensive, but was definitely a step up above the norm as everything was ordered and brought out a la carte. Out of the 10 items on the menu, I ultimately went with the chicken and roast potatoes. It was a nice dish if your definition of nice is food without flavour. But in mirroring the experience at Edinburgh, I had ordered a scone which was definitely better, and of course this had to be followed up with a Bloody Mary. And as things go, all good things must come to an end, and it was time to walk to the gate. Being in business, you get to board before everyone else in Group 1, great if you want uncontested space for your cabin bag, but in economy you have to board with the rest of the proletariat. What I didn't realise is that sometimes BA board front and back, which I didn't think they did as this is more of an EasyJet Ryanair move. Even though I boarded through the front doors, I idiotically chose the very last row on the plane, which ultimately meant climbing over everyone. When you eventually get to where you need to be, remember that European economy and European business both use the same seat. In business, the middle seat is blocked and a side console is in its place. This is of course one of the advertised benefits of choosing business over economy, and nearly all European carriers do this. For example, Lufthansa is no exception, but as you can see, you're not 100% guaranteed with a center console. That said, when you start talking about the seat itself, within the A320 family, a lot actually rides on the registration of the plane. And out of Heathrow, you're likely to run into two variants, the newer EU variant and the older British Midlands variant. Either way, legroom is decent, Wi-Fi is available, and each seat has its own individual air nozzle. On the EU variant, the seats are a little nicer and those seats recline a small amount, but on the older A320s, the seats in economy are fixed in place like you would see on a budget airline. The same goes for the headrest, which is somewhat adjustable on the newer A320s, but on the older models you can't do very much with them. If you're near the pointy end of the plane, on the newer A320s, the center console is locked into the frame of the seat and you therefore still get the usability of the armrest. But on the older models, the armrest is part of the support for the center console, unlike the newer EU variant, is locked into place for the whole flight. But as you can see, it gives you about an inch more space. And as a reminder, remember to double check you have a window if this is important to you, as you may end up like me without one. As to the meal, complimentary food is a staple of the European business experience, and BA is no different. Since the introduction of Dough & Co in 2018, on European flights, travellers were put into one of 5 catering bands. Well, if you count Express as a band anyway. In a nutshell, the further you travelled, the more food you were given, as you had more time to eat it. Sidetracking a bit, BA does a good job of keeping their menus fresh. On Heathrow services, the menu changes twice monthly, and changes depending on the time of day. So, what are you given? A standard afternoon-evening menu for bands 1 and 2 usually consists of a main with 2 options, usually a meat or vegetarian dish, a bread roll, a side, and a dessert which is usually chocolate pudding or a crumble. In bands 3 and 4, you get an extra mains option, which is more often than not a cured meats dish, as well as an extra cheese plate for dessert. For drinks, BA runs what they call a fully stocked bar in the air, so beers, spirits and wines are all included. Naturally, you also get soft drinks and juices, traditional and herbal teas, coffees, or if you prefer, a Cadbury's hot chocolate. On this trip, I was given the option of a couscous salad or a prosciutto antipasti, and I went for the latter, which was absolutely delicious. It's a darn sight better than the sandwich in a box that BA used to serve up during COVID. This was of course followed up with more attempts to claw my money back. Note to self, best Bloody Mary so far. In economy, everything gets slightly complicated. In the middle of a pandemic, BA decided to improve their standards, but completely half-assed their implementation of it. The good news is that everyone gets a packet of crisps and a bottle of water regardless of how much they paid for the flight. However, at the same time, they kicked Marks & Spencer's out as their preferred caterers and decided to go at it on their own with Tom Kerridge. This replaces their old buy on board service with the Speedboat Cafe, but it's currently operating on a pre-order basis where you have to reserve your choice no later than 24 hours before your flight. I wish they made a bigger effort, tell people in advance. And while it's actually good to see BA diverging from its pursuit to directly compete with low-cost carriers, just don't expect any real savings here. The menu is priced just as high as other low-cost carriers. Quality though is to be seen, as, I forgot to order up ahead. However, as I'm not currently stuffing my face with food, I had a chance to see the bathrooms, which there really isn't that much to talk about. A comment that I would make is that the look and feel is reminiscent of the default colour scheme out of the Airbus buyer's manual. Although I will mention that while it was kept clean, it clearly was designed for children. Now the last thing to look at is the onboard Wi-Fi. Not all planes are equipped with Wi-Fi as yet, but if the seat doesn't give it away, then as you board, look out for the .air symbol on the side of the plane. That said, onboard Wi-Fi is not gate-to-gate, meaning it only kicks in when the aircraft is at altitude. Prices are calculated for millennials who can't be away from their phones. In other words, you can choose between just messaging or browsing and stream, both of which are pretty self-explanatory. It should be noted that short-haul Wi-Fi prices are calculated by time as opposed to by data, which is predominantly seen on long-haul routes. But as there was a few more minutes left of the flight, I didn't bother. So that's pretty much it in terms of what you get on a short-haul flight. Whether you travel up in front or in the back, there are a few differences to the experience. And as we're back on the ground, this is probably a good time to wrap up. As to the original question, if European business class is worth it, then I can tell you on such a short flight, paying twice the amount of an economy ticket definitely isn't worth it. However, if the question is it worth upgrading, say if the price is similar or competitive, then in my view it is. But before everyone kicks off in the comments, let me explain. If you're looking for the cheapest ticket going, then economy would be the only way, and at this point you'd be comparing prices to Ryanair and EasyJet. In this case, the argument of choosing to upgrade is, in my view at least, similar to choosing economy over premium economy. Still the same, but slightly different. European business is all about the convenience and a streamlined experience, so having included services such as luggage, fast track and lounge access, and even a complimentary meal can be quite beneficial. So quite literally your mileage may vary depending on your threshold and willingness to pay for these services. So really, if you can justify the cost being slightly more and are happy to pay for it, then you should definitely go for it. And that's really it. I hope you enjoyed, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. And as always, let me know in the comments what I can do better and if you agree with my conclusion.